All right, for you folks at home, today and tomorrow, you are going to be working on solving multi-step equations. We started out with one step, then two, then three, then four, and now we're up to the point where we're ready to kind of finish this off by solving multi-step equations. And I do want to say that when we talk about solving multi-step equations, there is going to be a maximum of 5 steps. So 5 steps is the most that you will ever have to do. Could be less than that. Now, before we get into multi-step equations, I want to start out by reviewing with you yet again your equation rules. And we know there are 4 of these rules that we have continued to talk about the entire time we've been doing this. The first rule is to draw your line through your equal sign. And remember, we do that to divide our equation into the 2 sides. Rule 2, what you do to one side of that equation, you must do to the other. Your third rule tells you that to undo something, you undo something by doing the opposite. So all along we have seen that if we have addition, we subtract to undo it. If we have multiplying, we divide to undo it. Okay? And then the last rule is to remember that the goal is to get x, or whatever variable you're using, by itself. So these are our equation rules that we have followed all the way through this process. Now, the steps for solving these equations. Now, the good news is at this point, there are 5 steps that we're going to use now to solve equations. And you know 4 out of the 5. Okay? So, one of the rules you already know is that you distribute if necessary. And you know, we've talked about the fact that you'll know it's necessary to distribute if you see parentheses in the problem, where you have a number being multiplied by a group. So when you want to know if you need to distribute, look for groups. I'm going to skip number 2. You also know from the last thing we did that you cancel the smallest variable. Okay, to do that, you add or subtract to cancel that smallest variable. And then these last 2 steps are to undo addition or subtraction, and then to undo multiplication or division. So on Monday and Tuesday this week, when you were doing your 4-step equations, the 4 steps that I have up here on the board right now are the 4 steps that you were doing. So number 2 is going to be the new step that we're going to add today. Number 2 is going to be to combine like terms that are on the same side. To combine like terms that are on the same side. Now, you know, early on, we spent an entire week doing nothing but distributive property. And then we spent an entire week doing nothing but combining like terms. So those two concepts should be familiar to you. If they're not, if you've forgotten how to do it, you have videos in Schoology that you can go back and watch to help you with that. Now, here's what you need to understand about this. This 5-step process has to be done in this order. So if I were you, before you start trying to do these problems on your own, I would pause this video. I would copy down these 5 steps and kind of use them as a checklist, which is what I'm about to do as I do some examples with you. So let's get started here with this example. We're going to do 9x plus 1 minus 7x minus 5 is equal to a negative 20. So this is the first example that we'll do together. All right, I'm going to begin like I always do by drawing my line through my equal sign so that I can see my two sides. Now you'll notice side 1 of this equation is a little bit more complicated. Side 2 is really simple. It's just one number. So the first thing I want to do is distribute if necessary. So when I look at this problem, do I need to distribute? The only way I would need to distribute is if there were parentheses, if there were groups in this problem. And when I look at it, I don't see any groups. I don't see any parentheses. So I do not need to distribute. I'm going to go ahead and check that as done because it is not necessary in this problem. All right, step 2. Combine like terms that are on the same side. Now, you all need to remember that like terms are the ones that have the same variable part. It has to be exactly the same. And I want you to notice that this says they have to be on the same side of the problem. You have two sides. This is side 1, and this is side 2. So I'm going to look at side 1 and see if it has like terms, okay? Now you'll notice here that side 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, all right? And when we did like terms, that's when we drew the colored boxes around them. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to start with my first term and draw a red box around 9x. The variable part of that is x. So a like term would have to have that same variable part of x. So plus 1 is not a like term because it doesn't have x. Minus 7x is a like term because this has x, this has x. And remember that 7x gets to keep that minus sign, so I'm going to put a red box around negative 7x. And then I have minus 5, no x with that, so not a like term there. Now, let's get a different color. My next term is this plus 1, this positive 1. You'll notice it doesn't have a variable. Neither does this minus 5, this negative 5. So I'm going to put a blue box around that minus 5. So to kind of review here and emphasize what's happening, I put a red box around 9x and negative 7x because those both have x. I put a blue box around positive 1 and negative 5 because those don't have variables. That's what makes them like terms. And I'm going to combine these by doing what it says. So for the x's, for the red boxes, I'm going to do 9 minus 7. 9 minus 7. 9 minus 7 is 2, so that's going to be 2x. So that's my red boxes. All right, now I'm going to go back and combine the blue boxes. So in the blue boxes, I have a positive 1 minus 5. And if I do a positive 1 minus 5, I get a negative 4. So I'm going to put minus 4. So 9x minus 7x is 2x. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. and that's equal to a negative 20. This side only has one term, so no like terms over there. So combine like terms that are on the same side. All right, now, the next step is to add or subtract in order to cancel the smallest variable. Well, the only variable in the problem is 2x. There isn't another one. So I don't need to do step 3. I can't cancel the smallest variable because there's only one variable in the problem. So I don't know what's smallest. All right, so now we're down to these last two steps. We are going to undo addition or subtraction. Now here is that point. Y'all have seen me do this many times now. Here is that point where I cover up my variable so I can see my adding or my subtracting. I have in this problem subtracting 4. So I'm going to undo subtracting 4 by adding 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Now at this point, we can take that cover away and work with our problem. All right, so subtracting 4 and adding 4 are going to cancel each other out because those are opposites. So I have 2x on this side. And then negative 20 plus 4 is a negative 16. So I end up with 2x equal to a negative 16. So check that off. And so my last step is to undo multiplying or dividing. I have 2x. That means I am multiplying x by 2. I am multiplying x by 2. So the opposite of multiplying by 2 is to divide by 2, which I show with my division bar. So I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. My multiplying by 2 and my dividing by 2 are opposites and cancel each other out. So I have x equals, then negative 16 divided by 2 is a negative 8. So notice in this problem there were some steps that I did not need to do. So these are the 5 steps you might have to do. It's the maximum number you would have to do. But sometimes some of the steps are not necessary. But go through that checklist one thing at a time. That step 2 is the new one. So as I'm doing that step 2, you really watch and pay attention, because that's where we might have trouble. Now, as usual, I'm going to continue, and I don't expect you to do this on every problem, but I'm going to continue to write the 5 steps over here on the left as I'm doing my example over here so that we can kind of get used to this. All right, so here's our example. 9 times... oh, and I copied that wrong. Let me make my correction here. 9 times m minus 3. Let me try again here. That's kind of sloppy, and I want this to be right. So let's do 9 times m minus 3 plus 3m is equal to 7m plus 43. So this is the equation that we will be solving. I'm going to go ahead and draw my line through my equal sign to get ready with that, and we'll get started. So step 1 is to distribute if necessary. Distribute if necessary. So we look at our problem to see if we have any groups, and we do. We look over here and we see that we have this group m minus 3 being multiplied by 9. So remember how the distributive property works. It says that if you want to multiply a number like 9 times a group, that you are going to multiply each member of that group by 9. Well, the members of my group are m and negative 3. Remember that minus sign in front of that 3 stays with him. Also remember that this m is the same thing as 1m, so you can put that invisible 1 in front of that. So I'm going to take this number 9 and I'm going to multiply it by each member of this group. So first I'll do 9 times 1m. 9 times 1 is 9. Reattach the m. Then I'll do 9 times negative 3, which is a negative 27. So I'll put minus 27. And then I'll just bring down plus 3m equals 7m plus 43. So I had the number 9 being multiplied by this group, so I multiplied each member of that group by 9 to make those parentheses go away. So I have distributed. All right, this is our new step. We're going to combine like terms. On the same side. So they have to be on the same side of that red line that I've got drawn right down through my equation. So first I'm looking at side 1. I'm looking to the left of that red line. I see 3 terms there. So let's get some colored pencils and start marking those. I'm going to always start with my first term, 9m. The variable part of that term is m. This term has the same variable part. It also has m. So I'm going to put a red box as well around plus 3m. So I'm identifying 9m and plus 3m as being like terms. The only other term up here is this minus 27, this negative 27. So I'm going to put a blue box around him, but nobody else on this side is like him. So let's combine these like terms. For the m's, for the red boxes, we're going to do 9 plus 3. 9 plus 3 is 12, so that gives me 12m. And then I'm just going to bring down that minus 27. All right, now let's check this side for like terms. We have 7m. Nobody else has an m. And we have plus 43, which doesn't have a variable. These aren't like terms, so there's no combining over here. There are no like terms over here, so we just bring down 7m plus 43. So I want you to notice what I did there. I did this side like terms, and then I did this side like terms. Do it on each side. Combine them if they're there. All right, now, step 3 is to cancel the smallest variable. Cancel the smallest variable. You have to have 2 variables for this step to apply, and I do. I have 12m on this side. So let's look at our variables. We have 12m on this side, and we have 7m on this side. Who is smaller? Well, the answer to that question is 7m. Now to cancel that 7m, I'm either going to add 7m or subtract 7m. So this is a positive 7 right now, so I would do the opposite and subtract 7 to get rid of him. If you subtract 7m over there, you have to subtract 7m over here. 7m minus 7m is 0. They cancel out. So 12m minus 7m is 5m. Minus 27 is equal to, looks like 43 on this side is what we're bringing down. So we have canceled the smallest variable. All right, now down to these last 2 steps. We're going to undo addition or subtraction. So as usual, I'm going to cover up my m. And what I see is subtracting 27. So I have to undo subtracting 27. Well, to undo subtracting, I'm going to add 27 onto both sides of my problem. Take the cover away. Subtracting 27, adding 27, cancel each other out. So I get 5m is equal to 43 plus 27 is 70. And then my last step is to undo multiplying or dividing. undo multiplying or dividing. Right here I have 5m. That means the m is being multiplied by 5. So I have to undo multiplying by 5. So I'm going to divide by 5. Multiplying by 5, dividing by 5 are going to cancel each other out, so m is alone. 70 divided by 5 should be 14. So m is equal to 14. So I want you to notice again how this is a step-by-step process. One thing at a time. So focus on one thing at a time. All right. Let's do one more. So I'll get us all set up. 5 steps we might have to do. And a third example. I'm going to draw my line through my equal sign, so I'm set and ready to go. All right, step 1 is to distribute if it's necessary. So I look to see if I have groups, and I do. I have 2 of them. Here is one group, x minus 8. Here is another group, x plus 5. So I'm going to have to distribute a couple of times here. Now let's start with this first group. I'm supposed to take the number -3 and multiply it by that group. Well, what are the members? The members of that group are x and -8. So I'm going to multiply -3 by each member of that group. So first we'll do -3 times 1x. -3 times 1 is -3. Reattach x. Now be careful on the second part, because you're doing -3 times -8. -3 times -8 is a positive 24, so we're going to put plus 24 there. Now, when we get over here to the second group, you'll notice that there's not a number here in front of the parentheses. Remember, that means there's an invisible 1 there, and I would definitely suggest that you write that there. So you are going to be distributing a -1. Negative because there is a minus sign in front of him. Now, the 2 members of this group are 1x and positive 5. So we're going to do -1 times 1x. -1 times 1 is -1x. And then we're also going to do -1 times positive 5, which is -5. So we have now distributed. Take the number in front of the parentheses and multiply it by each member of that group. All right, now once again, here comes our new step. Combine like terms on the same side. Combine like terms that are on the same side. So let's get our colored pencils going. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms on side 1 of this problem. So I'm going to start with the first one, -3x. The variable part is x, which this term also has. So a red box is also going to go around on -1x, -1x. Notice how I always catch that sign in front of him. That goes with him. And then I also have a positive 24, which would be a like term with -5. Those are alike because neither one has a variable. So I'm going to combine the red and the blue. So for the red, I do -3 minus 1. -3 minus 1. So that's going to be a -4x. Now for the blue, I'm going to do 24 minus 5. 24 minus 5 is a positive 19. So I get negative 4x plus 19. Then when I come over to this side, I only have the one term, 23, so no like terms to combine there. Combine like terms that are on the same side. Done. Now, step 3 is to cancel your smallest variable. Now, you only have to do this if there are two variables in the problem. There's only one variable in the problem, negative 4x. So this step is already done. It is not necessary. There's not a smallest variable if there's only one variable. Now, time to undo addition or subtraction. So I'm going to cover up negative 4x. I can see now that I have adding 19. I will undo that by subtracting 19, and I'll do that on both sides. The adding 19 and the subtracting 19 undo each other. So I have negative 4x equals 23 minus 19 is 4. And then I'll finish this thing off by undoing, multiplying, or dividing. When I see negative 4x, I know that means negative 4 times x. So this x is being multiplied by negative 4. The opposite of multiplying by negative 4 is to divide by negative 4, which I will do on both sides. So my multiplying by negative 4, my dividing by negative 4 cancels each other out. So I get x equals 4 divided by negative 4 is a negative 1. So x is equal to a negative 1. All right, so the equations you're going to be solving today will have up to 5 steps. It could be less. But still go through these one at a time and see if it's there and see if it's something you need to do. And if it is, then do that. This step 2, combining like terms on the same side, is the new step today, so really slow down and focus on that. Definitely get out those colored pens and pencils and mark your like terms to combine. They have to be on the same side of the equal sign to be combined with each other. If you have any questions at all about this lesson, please let me know.